And we built all these PR projects which makes our place look like heaven. We have achieved progress. And so they measure progress with PR projects. And Allah says, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. You should not measure progress with high-rise buildings. Rather measure progress with how much fear of Allah is there in the heart. You have none. Yes, you built the tallest building, but you have no fear of Allah in your heart. So you and all those who stand with you represent no progress at all. But he is underneath a mango tree, making shoes as a shoemaker. But in his heart there is the fear of his Lord. He is superior to you. When you see a world acclaiming those who build these high-rise buildings, the tallest building in the world, and the world considers that to be progress, and the world looks down upon this one who has the fear of Allah in his heart, you know, that is a major sign of the last day. But how many can see it today? And how many are fooled today? And then he came to the last one. He said, you'll find that a slave woman will give birth to her mistress. How can a slave woman give birth to her mistress? Shall I leave you to think about it until tomorrow night? How can a slave woman give birth to her mistress? The only one who will be able to see that sign of Allah when it comes in the world, a major sign of the last age, the only one who will be able to see it and recognize it, is not the one who has the PhD from Al-Azhar University, but inside has nothing. It is the one who sees with two eyes, who has knowledge externally derived, and who has knowledge internally derived. This is the most learned of all men. And so when Musa asked, where can I meet him? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, go, and you will find him at the place where the two oceans meet. Majma'ul Bahrain. It is the commentator of the Quran, Baydawi. He is the only one who has penetrated the meaning of it. He said that the two oceans are the ocean of knowledge externally acquired and the ocean of knowledge internally acquired. When these two oceans of knowledge combine together in one man, combine together harmoniously, they're integrated together, you have the most learned of all men. Such a man was Maulana Muhammad Abdul Alim Siddiqui, rahimahullah, after whom this masjid was named. And such a man was his student and my teacher, Maulana Dr. Muhammad, and my teacher, Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah. We are just little candles glowing from the light which came from these great scholars of Islam. It is when you use these two oceans to combine together that you can crack it. A slave woman giving birth to her mistress. I'm going to be brief because it's already 10 o'clock. In order to understand this, you need two things. which come from Dajjal, through which Dajjal attacks to try to take control of mankind. One, the Prophet said that the age of Dajjal will be the age of Kathratul Riba. That riba will take control of the world in the age of Dajjal. What happens when riba takes control of an economy is that, number one, the rich will remain permanently rich and the poor will remain permanently poor. Wealth will no longer circulate. Number two, the rich will grow richer and the poor will grow poorer, and the number of poor will constantly increase until they reach to the depths of that destitution. In other words, a new slavery descends upon mankind, and that has already come while the ulama of Islam have been eating halwa. It has already come upon us. Nobody teaches the subject of the prohibition of riba. Nobody. I had the good fortune to live in New York, the capital city of riba. And there I was able to put book knowledge to bear upon the real economy in the world today. In addition, I was blessed to study Western economics, international monetary economics, for example, in Europe. And this was how Allah blessed me with some understanding of the subject. That's why you will find my book outside, The Prohibition of Riba in the Quran and Sunnah. It took me 4 years to write that book. When an economy is based on riba, then wealth will no longer circulate. It's like mankind traveling on a ship. 15% of the population of mankind traveling first class, with permanent first class tickets. Best drinking water, best food, servants to serve them, luxury. The other 85% down in the whole of the ship, living in squalor, living in misery, living in suffering, living in destitution, falling ill like flies and dying like flies. So they are slaves down there. That's Indonesia today. That woman, therefore, is a slave woman down in the whole of the ship. She's the one we're talking about. In the age of Dajjal, not only do we have riba, but something else. The last people to come out of Dajjal will be women, said the Prophet ﷺ. And Dajjal will weave such a web of brainwashing of women that a man would have to return to his home and tie down his wife and sister and daughter to protect and preserve them from Dajjal. They're brainwashed. Nothing you can say to them will change their minds. Brainwashed. This is the modern feminist movement. What does the modern feminist movement want to do? If nowhere else in the world you should be able to answer that very easily, Singapore. This country. The modern feminist movement challenges the notion that men and women are functionally different. That men have different basic functions from women. The modern feminist movement wants to remove the barriers. Anything a man does, a woman should have the freedom to do it. And so women embrace the functional role of men in the feminist revolution. But she is too poor to do it. The one down in the hole. The ones who do it are the elite. They're rich. These are the first to embrace the functional role of men. The women traveling first class. What happens when women go out to work the way men do? 7 o'clock in the morning, she's dressed to go to work.